It's time once again for another thrilling episode of Markout Radio. For the next hour, sit back, pull the stick out of your ass, and enjoy. Be warned though, smarks and internet know-it-alls will be offended, annoyed, and generally pissed off at what's about to happen to your ear holes. You've been warned. Now, Markout Radio.
That's right. Welcome to another episode of Markout Radio. It's your boy Dark Fox here again with you. Oh, what do you know? The camera's actually fairly decent. It's a little bit off. Off enough for my OCD. If you don't know I have OCD by now, you're in trouble. Strap in, Buttercup. It only gets worse. All right, so this is episode 74 for February 10th, 1997, out of the Jacksonville Veterans Memorial Coliseum, Jacksonville, Florida. Hosted, of course, by Tony Schiavone, Larry Zbyszko, Mike Tenay, and Bobby the Brain Heaton. This is the 35th ratings win, Jesus, in a row for Nitro with a 3.8 to Raw's 2.3. There were 7,669 in attendance with, no Beavis and Butthead sound to that, thank you. With 5,924 paying to be there with a $65,134 gate. No, I won't give in. Really? That's what you're like right out of the gate. I'm gonna get that instead of Beavis and Butthead. All right, thank you. Turn it down at least so the fuck it doesn't trip YouTube. Anyways, the show kicks off with no intro. We jump right into the action. But before we do, can we just for a moment appreciate the Hooters girls who put on cut up WCW shirts to be the 4 ring girls tonight? I mean, damn. What? Oh, fuck off. I can't get canceled. It's my fucking show. Oh, you found it?
This is my show.
Thank you for Hooter.
This is my show.
All right. Dean Malenko defeats Eddie Guerrero in your first match of the night by countout in a WCW United States Championship title versus WCW World Cruiserweight Championship match. It was not for either strap, although that was not made clear at all at any point during this match, because, that would involve calling a match, having a rundown for the match, knowing what's going to happen in the match and why we're having the match. And those are just details that Kevin and Eric are just, and Hogan, fuck. Anyways, it's 4 minutes, 57 seconds long. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. Malenko comes out and gives a thrilling fucking promo full of vim. I'm kidding. He was Dean Malenko. He gave a promo directed at 6. Larry calls it manly, has his headpiece cuts out, so thank you for production even fucking over Larry. It's a battle of the guys 6 have stolen belts from, and thank fuck they booked 6 to actually come out and try to steal the U.S. belt again, leading to a loss due to countout, and Malenko finally sells frustration and anger. My fuck. Yeah, Malenko actually sold emotion on his face. Glorious. No, I won't give in. If you keep queuing that up, we're definitely pinging you crap tonight. All right, DDP plainclothes in-ring promo after this. DDP calls out, here's the thing. On the network, it says that DDP calls out the locker room. That's not true. If you listen to the fucking promo with half of a brain cell in your head, which is probably why the interns at WWF or WWE, whatever, put that he called out the whole locker room because they don't have a brain cell between them because, they had Freddie Prinze Jr. as their fucking boss for God knows how long. Anyways, DDP calls out Sting and Savage without specifically saying Sting and Savage, and anyone with a functioning brain is aware of this. They do come down to the ring. They come into the ring using their bat gimmick for a little while, and Sting hands the bat over to DDP, turns his back because he always does. Savage kind of turns his back, except that he kind of just turns to the side. I just keep sort of looking over at him like, are you going to hit me with the bat? Are you going to hit me with the bat? Are you going to hit me with the bat? Are you going to hit me with the bat? Which totally ruins Sting's fucking gimmick. And this is Savage. So at some point, somebody must have explained to him what was going on. But I guess when you've been accidentally hurt on purpose as many times as Savage has, you don't trust anybody, especially somebody that is the neighbor of Eric Bischoff. After this, Konnan defeats Bobby Orton in 1 minute 22 seconds. I gave that 1.5 out of 5. Effectively, it's a squash match. And even Larry points it out during the match, given that it was Why wasn't Konnan able to string together a chain of moves that would have looked better instead of the final spot of him kind of catching Eaton like they're in a fucking rom-com? I was kind of expecting like that Dirty Dancing song to start playing. You know what I'm talking about. No, don't cue it up. That will absolutely get us in shit. The Giant after this defeats Ron Powers in 1 minute 47 seconds. I gave that 2 out of 5. Luger was of course originally booked for this match, but due to having a broken bone in his hand, we're not sure which, because kayfabe, Eric Bischoff comes out and pulls Luger from the match wearing the new NWO black denim jacket. You know, as much as I fucking love to beat on Eric, this was actually a pretty good spot. All right, fucking sappy music, get out of here. 2 weeks ago, Giant defeated Roadblock in a jobber match. Now here we are again. Fuck you, WCW fans. I will say this for Ron Powers. He put over the frustration of facing the Giant and then the fear of facing the Giant really well. And I also love cowboy wrestling boots. And it wasn't any of the roads that got me into them. It was actually Mr. Barry fucking Windham, who I will always mark out for. The choke slam here was also really good and got a nice pop from the audience, so it wasn't that bad of a fuck you to the fans, but I still really fucking hate all sub 2 minute matches. Post match is an in-ring promo with Mike Tenay and the Giant. Nice intensity of the Giant. Calls out Luger to let him know that after he single-handedly defeats the Outsiders, he'll let Luger have one of his belts. I think a tear might have come out.
All right.
Fucking gay promo. Just awful. It's awful. The intensity of the fucking promo was good. Having Luger come out was good. Why the fuck does Giant have to bury Luger and put himself over as being able to defeat both Outsiders, which arguable, fine, it's wrestling. There's nothing wrong with that. But then he just goes, one of the belts is going to be mine, and the other one I'll give to you. After this, we get an NWO Hogan shirt promo. Back from break, we watch the Outsiders and Big Bubba arrive, where Bubba puts himself in a match with DDP at Battle Brawl, whatever the fuck. The pay-per-view coming up. What is it again? Super Brawl? Yeah, thank you. Super Brawl. All right, so he puts himself over as being in that match. He claims he's going to make DDP squeal like a pig. And he says it in that rapey voice. You know, that gravelly, I'll make you squeal like a pig, boy. Like, you know, which is sort of a euphemism for I'm going to fuck you up the ass. I get it. He's from the South, and it's really probably difficult to not say I'm going to make you squeal like a pig, or I'm going to make him squeal like a pig without sounding like a rapey fucking... I just don't say it then. It just comes out horribly, like more horribly than me objectifying women at the top of the show, all right? After this, the Steiner brothers defeat High Voltage, Kenny Cass, and Robbie Rage in 4 minutes, 30 seconds. I gave it 4 out of 5. Rick is the least rooted up wrestler in the ring. I wonder how much it pissed off Scott that High Voltage are on the same regiment as he is. Because if you look at the three of them, they essentially look like a photocopy of each other. You know, you got Scott Steiner, who's been spending too much time working on his biceps and triceps and not enough time working on his forearms or his abs or his legs or pretty much everything except his tits and his arms. Because we all know, according to Hogan, biceps sell pay-per-views, even apparently if they're this pale. And then you look at the High Voltage guys who are younger, more athletic because they're younger, and essentially have the same physique without all that bulgy, I've been on too many steroid regimens look to them. You just start looking like really like your skin is being stretched over wood. You see it later even with Hogan. Picture is a side-by-side picture with the Steiners cutting a pre-match promo in a good old-fashioned, old-school kayfabe kind of way. Rick's fucking barking gimmick. Oh my God! Harlem Heat and Sister Sherry come out to watch this from really far away, even though they could have watched it on the monitors in the back a bit closer, and then the Faces of Fear come out. Tony observes that the monitors in the back would probably be an easier way to watch this match. Fuck me, I'm seeing and saying the same shit as fucking Tony Schiavone. No shit. Anyways, Public Enemy also comes out to watch the match. This was actually an excellent spot since it reminds fans how thick the tag division is getting with 5 pretty solid contender teams out there during the same match. There's a nice springboard here from Robbie Rage that gets turned into a power bomb from Rick Steiner, who very rarely gets power bombs out there. A very cool spot that dumped into the Steiner Bulldog finisher, and a W for the actual tag team champions. Yes, kayfabe. Back for the break, cameras on Tony and Larry as the NWO comes out. Eric comes out with a mic that isn't live. Well done, production team. Eric, Hall, and Nash take over the announcer position with 6 and Nick Patrick behind them. Eric introduces Randy Anderson, who wanted to come out and beg for his job back with his wife and kids. Montana, the girl, like Hannah Montana? If you have named your children after states or cities, I'm not talking like Charlotte, because that makes sense. It's the name of a city and the name of a human being. But if you take a name like Montana and you give it to your child, I've got to ask. Comment below if you must, or send an email, mlrmarket@gmail.com. But what is precisely going through your fucking head? And by the way, his son's name is Chase, which arguably is a name of a human being, but is also the name of a pet and also an action. So I gotta ask, I know Randy Anderson's Southern, and by the way, holy fuck, he's not rocking a dad bod, he looks pregnant. But why the fuck do you name your poor children Montana and Chase? Is it that important in the late 80s and 90s to be like giving your children names that they're going to be mocked for their entire life? Can you imagine if Montana goes on to start a business and she's in a meeting with some CEO of some major corporations offering her a buyout, and he throws to, the CEO of the company, Montana Anderson. What do you feel about Montana Anderson? How do you sign that? Do you sign it like Donald Trump signs things? Do you sign it just like that so that you can hide the fact that you're named after a fucking state? I'm focusing on this too much. I know I am. I get it, but fuck, parents, don't do this to your children. Give them human names that are used on human people. And while you're at it, please stop naming your pets human names. Anyways, I'm not sure who thought that this fucking spot was good, but it's fucking awful. It's awkward and awful, and Jesus. And again, Eric's putting children on television that don't know their fucking lines because Montana's got a line here, but no one's got a mic on her for it. So what the fuck? Anyways, Eric concludes this by saying that Randy Anderson is still fired unless he takes on Nick Patrick in a match next week on Nitro. Oh, good. This is going to be awesome. Anderson says he beat cancer so he can beat Nick Patrick. Oh, my God. Jesus fuck. And the ball just keeps rolling because right after this, we have the Outsiders with 6 in their corner defeating the Extreme, Ace Starling and Devon Storm. Sorry, I got to make them sound more awesome because holy fuck, they're still awful. They're awful wrestlers. They're awful bumpers. They're awfully dressed. They actually look like their outfits were outfits they presented to Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty back when they were doing the Rockers. And they both went, yeah, fuck that. We're not wearing that bullshit. Anyways, the Outsiders retain their tag team champions because of course they do in this match that lasted 1 minute, 27 seconds.
0.0.
Yes, the Outsiders destroyed this team 2 weeks ago. No, this isn't any different. It's another fuck you to their audience. And of course, all night they've been talking about being the working man's champions. What working men? The fuck, have you ever worked a day in your life? Are you fucking kidding me? One of you had a college full ride scholarship to play basketball and then went into fucking wrestling. The other one literally grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. What the fuck are you even talking about? It's amusing to me that Kevin Nash will shit on fucking Trump supporters now and literally have these thoughts then and on fucking shoot interviews. It's baffling, the cognitive dissonance here. Anyways, Eric invites Larry back to the announce position to help out with play-by-play, and their back and forth instantly becomes the most entertaining part of this goddamn match. Nash does Luger's rack, kind of, except that he grabs the wrong leg and he drapes him over with his stomach. The whole point of the rack is to stretch out their back, not to, drive your shoulder into their tummy tum, but whatever. Hall does Giant's chokeslam, which any fucking moron could do, by the way. The guy just needs to jump for you, and then you help him land on his back. I got nothing for you, man. Post-match promo was 6 and the Outsiders in ring. Nash gets some cheap heat telling the audience to shut their fucking mouths. I mean, aside from the cheap heat, this wasn't really a good promo. He concludes that Giant is a dork and a goof. All right. Is this promo written in fucking crayon? Thanks, Kevin. Back from break, and I don't care if it's Nash or Sullivan at this point. They're both equally fucked in the head this week. Back from break, hour 2 starts recapping hour 1, along with some weasel chants from the crowd, which I thought was better than the recap. Lord Steven Regal versus Rey Mysterio ended in a time limit draw for the WCW World Television Championship match in 6 minutes and 56 seconds. I wish I was kidding. When I look at these when I find the list of matches from that night, and sometimes there's times and sometimes there's not. Sometimes I give a shit enough to actually try to count the amount of time that's in there. Sometimes it's just fuck it, because if the fucking bookers are going to say fuck it, then why don't I? Anyways, I legit saw time limit draw and saw 6 minutes, 56 seconds. I was not aware of there being a time with a 6 minute, 56 second time limit. It must be one of those WCW stopwatches, but out of morbid curiosity, I counted bell to bell, and it actually was 6 minutes, 56 seconds. But then it was announced as a time limit 10-minute draw. And despite that, I'm still giving it a 4 out of 5 because the match itself was actually really good. Amazingly enough, Mysterio gets a lukewarm reception, which let's be fair, okay? I'm not often in the job of making things fair on wrestlers. It's your job to get a reaction out of the crowd. That's your only job, is to get a reaction out of the crowd. That's what you're there for. Everything you do to look how you look and say what you say is to get a reaction out of the crowd. So if you can't get a reaction out of your crowd, then you suck. I'm sorry. It could be you suck that day or you just suck in general. But that's your fucking job, to get a reaction, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Sometimes it's Xbox bad. So Mysterio comes out. He gets a lukewarm reception, does not play to the crowd or anything to try to turn it into any kind of pop at all. I know he's coming back from a knee injury, and that's all well and good. But you're going into a match with Lord Steven Regal, who's going to take care of you. He's not one of those wrestlers that's going to hurt you. And sure enough, Regal works over Mysterio's arms the entire match just to avoid the leg, so that just in case you forgot which leg Mysterio had hurt, he wouldn't by chance hurt his leg again. So he literally worked over his arms and his head. Regal, on the other hand, gets heat the millisecond he walks out of the entrance and plays it up so good. He is so awesome that when he gets into the ring, he even puts over being disgusted at having to face somebody as small as Rey Mysterio. And then he goes and gets into a shouting match with Neanderthals at ringside and would continue to keep them specifically involved throughout the match. This would give him a ton of options when he needed to slow things down in the ring. All he had to do to let Rey rest, because if his knee was feeling a little fucky or whatever, and he needed to rest, Regal would need a pause place somewhere. And so what does he do? He just fucks with the audience again.
Glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend.
All right, so I'm sure that by now YouTube has tweaked it. Fuck it, whatever. All right, there we go. Less than 30 seconds, YouTube. Go fuck yourselves. That was 23 seconds that I was playing. All right, anyways. Now, back to the match. Tony tells us that Piper is here tonight. Why are we waiting until hour 2 to announce that Piper's here tonight? What the fuck is going on backstage? Oh, right. Kevin Sullivan was busy planning for his super awesome promo later. Never mind. And of course, Eric's busy putting himself over and patting himself on the back for having higher ratings. Barely last week, by the way. So this week, the ratings might be a wide margin. Last week, they won by 0.2 of a point. So if he's backstage not paying attention to the actual product going on out here and busy patting himself on the fucking back, then shit like this is going to slip through the cracks. Like, your main event is going to be another Piper promo. Why wouldn't we need to know about that sooner? Bobby tells us that Nitro is cool, instantly makes it uncool. Thank you, Dad. The end of the bit was a clusterfuck, especially since Tony tells us that it's a 10-minute time limit draw, a full 3 minutes ending early. Maybe it's a Shivani 10 minutes. Poor Lois. After this, that golden voice bastard Lee Marshall via the 1-800-COLLECT road report calls in from Jesse's and then promotes his party at Jocks and Jill's in Atlanta next week. He throws Bobby under the bus as Tony's pest and waxes philosophical that the Tampa Bay Rays didn't name their team the Weasels when they were coming up with a team name for their inaugural 1998 season. But apparently that name is taken by a team. So Brain's rebuttal was something about tipping and Lee Marshall not doing it, which... all right. Anyways, Kevin Sullivan, Jacqueline, and Jimmy Hart defeat Maverick Wild in 2 minutes, 13 seconds. I gave it 3 out of 5. Fourth fuck you fans job match of the night. Gee, I wonder if this is going to affect ratings next week's show. Still, there was actually something being done with this job, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but Maverick Wild is going to need a whole new character if he's going to stay in the company. Just to show that even the production team is bored at the show at this point, they play Sullivan's music, then they crossfaded into Wild's music, and then they hard stop Wild's music to play Sullivan's theme again as he, Jackie, and Jimmy Hart come down to the ring. When Jackie won't stop rubbing Kevin's tits in the ring, he motions for Jimmy to go haul her away. Wild barely gets into the ring before Sullivan stomps a fucking mud hole in him and tosses him to the outside, where Jackie even jobs out Maverick Wild with a nice pop from the crowd for her wrestling, which was actual wrestling, not chick wrestling, which was good. Calm down. I mean, all right. Back in the 80s and 90s, when you had a manager at ringside and they chick wrestled, they just slap or pull hair, right? Okay, then. Jackie's actually legitimately wrestling. Is she not? Those forearm shots? Are those not? Thank you. Fucking producer boy. Anyways, this is the first time they're actually seeing Jackie wrestle, and they pop huge for it. She tosses Wild back into the ring, where Sullivan stomps him some more, and Hardway chest slaps him a few times before tossing him back to Jackie, who scoop slams him on the outside and gets a huge pop for it, especially from Tony and Bobby announcing the match. They effectively pre-bury Woman now, saying that they wouldn't want to face Jackie either. Now, this is all to say that Woman and Jackie are supposed to face each other at Super Brawl 7. Is that going to happen? Let's wait and see. In this match, though, Kevin puts Maverick into the tree of woe and ends this thing with a double stomp. Not to be outperformed, though. Jackie picks up Wild, gives him one last forearm shot for good measure, and then we get a slow-mo replay of the whole match that almost lasted longer than the match itself. Post-match is a rant promo, Sullivan, Hart, and Jackie with Mike Tenay. Sullivan wants the wrestling interview to stop on a wrestling show so that he can address two people with an incredible zoom onto his face so that we can see his nose hairs.
We're coming for you.
Wait. Jesus. How come you haven't edited that clip yet? Can't you bleep it or something? No, I just got to keep talking. Of course, I got to keep talking over it. Anyways, his whole promo was do your job. And fuck you, production monkeys. Don't wrap him up, because every time they try to wrap him, he yells at them. On a live cam, by the way. Let him bury himself then, fucking production team, on live television and make this awkward as fuck. Now, Jackie is going to get the stick, and she's going to repeat everything that Kevin said and continue to blow kayfabe out of the water while the fans shit all over this fucking promo. No shit. They shit all over the fucking promo. First, there was like crowd noise, like, you know, the kind of crowd noise you hear when there's no actual crowd noise happening at a wrestling event that's on TV. Like when you look at the camera and you see no one saying or doing anything, and yet for some strange reason there's like noise. That's what was going on this entire fucking promo. There was just this dull kind of crowdy noise thing going on with no one reacting to anything that anybody fucking said. Why? Because it's fucking self-serving garbage and no one likes it and no one cares. Back from break, we recap last week's Piper Hogan promo. They did manage to edit out Piper delivering Colt's line to him fairly well with crowd noise. This is, the entire segment. We get back from break, we do this, we go to break, we come back, we get another match. So an entire segment is essentially last week's fucking promo. So again, while I get it and fucking Kevin Sullivan's shit is cringe inducing, why wrap them up? All you're doing is recapping what happened last week. Anything for 15 fucking minutes. What difference does it make who cares how long it goes? You're just going to recap it again later anyways. Let's be honest. Hugh Morrus defeated Alex Wright in a match after this in 2 minutes, 27 seconds. I gave that one 1 out of 5. We're back from break. Like I said, Morrus comes out with no laughs or anything, and his music crossfades into the Twinks music before he even gets into the ring to do his fucking pose. Wright is trying harder to get over than ever, so much so that even Tony draws our attention to it, and he botches a fairly simple move that opened the door for Morrus to take the match home and finish this fucking sacrilege off. Chris Benoit and Steve Mongo McMichael in your main event with Deborah and Woman at ringside defeat Jeff Jarrett and Chavo Guerrero Jr. in 4 minutes, 1 second. I gave that one 3 out of 5. There's no entrance here for Chavo and Jarrett, probably because Kevin Sullivan ran long. We join things as Benoit and McMichael climb into the ring itself. Chavo botches a couple moves as he hits fast forward on his goddamn moveset, but Benoit puts him over and hides them well like a fucking pro. Mongo actually gets a pop when Benoit tags him in to get a piece of Jeff Jarrett and performs a very sound shoulder slam, but I feel like he may have driven his shoulder in harder because Jarrett was fucking gassed after this. Jarrett verbally asks for Mongo to get tagged out, and it's caught on the live mic cam. Deborah starts trying to pull Jeff's dick out of his tights. Tony and Mike have a little fun pointing this out, being far more subtle than I was. Post-match is a horseman gathering in the ring as Mongo confronts his wife's tight digging. Mike Tenay climbs into the ring to conduct the promo. Anderson might have some numbness in his extremities, but it certainly has not affected his goddamn promos. My fuck, was that good? Just riding the line between kayfabe and shoot interview like a fucking masterclass. Rick's promo and ring are funny because he tends to bounce around a lot, and because he's right in the middle of the ring, everybody bounces around a lot, and nothing they do can hide it. Benoit's promo after this has a zoom in on he and woman, and it's intense, but doesn't really tell us much of anything. The McMichaels get heat, and someone threw popcorn at Deborah and one of the kernels stuck in her hair, which was fucking glorious. Thank you. I won't give in till I'm victorious. That was flawless timing this time. Well done. Cumulatively, I think we've played almost the whole thing at this point. Anyways, Mongo puts over his match with Jarrett at Super Brawl. Deborah gets in the last word tediously. Jesus Christ. After this, during the commercial break, there's a Super Brawl 7 Crazy Scientist promo. Back from break, Piper's music starts. Piper comes down to a huge pop. Piper's got an earpiece so that he can hear Hogan broadcasting live from the NWO studios in Hollywood. He gets a pop calling Hogan a bald-headed geek, and then not too subtly calls he and Eric a gay couple. Now, at first, of course, I was a little surprised that there was no delay in Hogan's feed, and then I remembered that I'm a moron. And if Lee Marshall's bit isn't on the road, then what the fuck is Hogan's? It's backstage, of course. Sometimes even I can be a fucking mark. To be honest, though, this was a meh promo at best. This is again, I fucking hate these Hogan main event promos.
Hogan hour sucked.
Thank you, Big T. They just dragged the whole show down. The fucking thing should have ended. First of all, Deborah should never get the last word ever on a Horseman promo. That should just be rare. Ric Flair saying woo. All right. And then you go to black and you end the show. I don't care if it's early. Holy fuck, these fucking end of show promos. Just stop. There was a space between the Hugh Morrus Alexander Wright match and the Horseman Jeff Jarrett Chavo Guerrero match. That's where you could have had the promo. Wrestling to start the show, wrestling to end the show. Unless you're going to do something really cool, which this was not it. Having Hogan backstage in black and white was not cool. It was fucking lame, and it did not go over at all. At all. That's the thing. This is pretty meh for Nitro, to be honest. It starts off with a good match that actually has a program built around these 3 players, and it's excellent. There's more shitty matches and job matches than good matches this week, which is a shame because the Regal Mysterio match was really quite good despite the time limit gimmick getting overused for Regal. The Steiners high voltage match was well performed, and having bigger tag teams out there to watch was an excellent way of putting over the tag division. In retrospect, having the Outsiders job out the same ham and egger team was actually kind of clever in a way. It's showing that they're running from the roster. However, the reason why the match got a fucking 0 is because that's not being covered at all. It's not being covered by the announce team. It's not being explained away by the NWO or the Outsiders. It's happening. You're seeing it happen, and you're just left to think, all right, so the Outsiders just can't wrestle? Is this what we're being told? Like one former WWF champion and one former WWF Intercontinental champion, they just all of a sudden, they come into this company, they just can't wrestle? That's what we're doing? It needs to be covered properly by the announce team. And this is the same announce team, by the way, that explains Sullivan's promos for hours on end. It should be discussed at least somehow in someone's fucking promo or the announce team, since that's what they're there for. This Nitro pulls a 2.5 out of 5 because, frankly, this shit was worse than the good stuff, and I'm feeling generous this week. Next week is the Go Home Nitro leading into Super Brawl 7. We know we're going to see 6 versus Malenko for the Cruiserweight title because that's the only gimmick that they have for 6. We're supposed to have a 4-way match, according to Tony, on this Nitro of Public Enemy, Harlem Heat, Faces of Fear, and the Steiners, but we'll end up with a 3-way dance without the Steiners. Hopefully next week we find out why. We'll see Jeff Jarrett versus Mongo, which keeps being put over by Mongo as for his spot in the Horsemen, which nobody else will confirm, but it's actually going to end up being for Deborah, which Luger and Giant will take on the Outsiders for the belts at Super Brawl. Hogan will take on Piper. Somebody from the NWO will take on DDP. We're not really quite sure who yet, but Bubba's trying to get on live camera as much as possible to get himself into that match. We're supposed to see Woman and Jackie in a match, but that one's kind of up in the air for obvious reasons. Still, I mean, Nitro was just meh. There were some things coming together, but the wrestling was subpar for the most part, and having a recap of last week's Piper Hogan promo last longer than this week's Piper Hogan promo via satellite was just goofy and poorly executed. Next week, both shows are going to drop in the ratings. WWF's due to their product being stale and shit. WCW's is going to drop because they weren't on at the same time as they usually are. The NBA Finals were on as the Bulls beat the Jazz in the 6th game of the Finals. People tuned in for Nitro and watched an hour of basketball before giving up and assuming that Nitro wasn't just going to be on this week. Now, there were some commercials during the game that told people Nitro was next. There was 3 of them, actually. One before the game actually started, and then there were 2 others in the first hour of the basketball game. By the time WCW regular viewers tuned in, though, there was nothing to tell them that Nitro was actually coming on next. The announcers of the basketball game were supposed to mention it several times, but ended up cutting each other off as it was actually a very exciting game. Next week, though, we're going to sit down together and see if the Go Home Nitro was any good and if it explained the card that we're supposed to see at Super Bowl 7 well enough to sell that fucking show.
Well, that was an abortion of a show. Should the mood take you, check out markoutradio.com and leave a comment. You can also find links there to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Stitcher channels. You can even leave a voicemail on our Skype. Just click the links and share them.